Hey, PGCPS family. I know my background looks a little different right now. But before I talk about that, I want to say thank you so much if you're tuning in again. Welcome back. Thank you so much if this is your first time here. We hope you'll join the PGCPS Wellness family. I'm sitting on my couch in a different spot today because I just wanted to be really authentic, really raw. I always am, but with structure. But I wanted to be really raw and really authentic today with what I want to talk to you guys about and not really try to fake the funk. I'm having a rough week. I'm right there with you guys going through so many things personally with all this change with COVID, how that's affecting schooling, how that's affecting work, and really just doing my best to keep going. And so I'm just having a rough week this week, and I think that is such a good time to be talking about what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. So, today's topic is kind of continuing with our focus on mindfulness and talking about intention. And it's really good to talk about intention after discussing everything that Shola talked to you all about last week and what her and I talked to you guys about the week before. Because they all really fall in alignment. So, with intention, I want to talk to you guys today about doing things on purpose. So if you know me personally or you've ever emailed me, I have a habit of saying, have a day of purpose on purpose. And I think that goes over people's heads a lot of why that's so important, right? Um, and for example, with me having a rough day today, I could have sat back there at my dining table where I normally sit. I could have faked the funk and just did my spiel. But I think that would have made the whole thing that we've been doing together over the course of the last month and a half worth nothing. If I'm pretending to be okay when I'm not okay, I'm not being intentional about what I need in that moment. So I'm showing up on my couch because this feels good for me today. And I want to be intentional about what I share with you today and how I share it so I can be my most authentic self. And that in itself is an act of being mindful of what feels good to my body, and also practicing self-care. So not forcing myself to do something that I just can't do today. So I wanted to be vulnerable with you guys today and just share that. But let's talk deeper about this. So what does it mean to do things on purpose with purpose, right? And I wanted to break that down into three parts, right? So the why, the how, and the what happens as a result of doing, right? So the why, first and foremost, we want to do things on purpose with purpose because it allows us to be present, which of course we're focusing on that with being mindful with this series, right? Is being present, right? So being present with every single task that you do, even the small things. And when we're present with every single task that we do, that allows us to not only create healthy habits, but it improves our relationship with ourselves and with others. And it gets us closer to our goals than we ever could have been if we were not being present with the task at hand. So that's really the key to it, right? So being intentional, right, with everything we do, that is what puts purpose in any and everything that we do, is when we're intentional, when we're present with the stuff that we're doing, we put purpose in it, right? So why do we want to do that again? Let's think about the fact that we all have 24 hours in a day, and for some reason, it just never feels like it's enough, right? We wake up, we do what we have to do during the day, and before we know it, it feels like it's nighttime again, especially with this time change, y'all. It gets dark fast. And before we know it, our day is gone. And sometimes, for many, and even for me, there are some days where I'm like, well, what did I get accomplished? Like, how is it 4 o'clock and dark already, right? And because it's dark, it feels like it's like 8. And I realize it's because I'm not being purposeful in my task, in my daily task, right? And it sounds so simple, but honestly, it's easy to forget to do when we're used to having to multitask, especially, being parents, having jobs, being students, trying to learn, trying to work, trying to teach, trying to have time for self, for friends, for family, for spouses, for partners. It's easy to just kind of get through the day of stuff that you have to do without putting intention into what you're doing, right? You have to think on purpose. You have to exercise on purpose. You have to eat on purpose. You have to play on purpose. You have to recover and rest on purpose. You have to live on purpose. You have to talk on purpose. You have to encourage others on purpose, sleep on purpose, grow on purpose, love on purpose. Take care of yourself on purpose, right? We have to do all of those things on purpose. And that is really the key to being intentional with every single thing that you do, is realizing that everything that you do has a purpose and not forgetting that when you go to do that thing. Even the very small things like daily task of making your bed in the morning can be done with purpose. And I think it's important to talk about how we do that, right? Because again, thinking of these small things, we may not think it's something that we need to plan out. But if you're someone who struggles with being mindful, with being intentional, especially with smaller tasks, I think it's really good to make a plan of how you can do that, right? So one is to plan out your daily tasks. So one thing we talked about a lot with the self-care series was we talked about creating different self-care lists, right? But you can create tasks for each single day about anything. So whether it's you want to wake up in the morning and make sure you make your bed, make sure you eat a good breakfast, then you put out your, if you're working from home like we mostly are, if you're a part of the PGCPS family, putting out your list of stuff that you want to get done for work today, your personal stuff that you want to get done today, making it all a list, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to put 1,000 things on that list, right? The biggest and most important part about making a list is making a list that's realistic and that allows you to feel accomplished, right? If you always create lists that are extremely long and you're never finishing and getting to check off everything on that list, that can be kind of self-sabotaging, right? So be realistic with yourself, honor yourself, know what is a good number of things to put on your list so that you can feel accomplished at the end of the day once you've checked all of those things off, right? But that's not where that stops. The next really, really important thing to do is be intentional with each thing on your list, right? So if it's making your bed in the morning, I find making my bed in the morning such a humbling experience, right? Because it reminds me that if I can do the very small things that I overlook very well, that when it comes to the big things, I'm going to be like, no brainer, I can tackle this, right? So something as small as making your bed in the morning, right? A lot of us don't do that, especially not the students watching, right? We overlook that simple task can have such a good impact on the way we feel when we start our day, right? And making a habit of doing stuff like that can allow you to feel more empowered when it does come to the big stuff, right? And then what happens as a result of doing that, of being present with each single task, of finding purpose in every single task, right? It allows you to be present with yourself, but with others. Imagine, I know one thing that I talked about with my mom a lot was her being present, as a child with me. So a lot of times my mom, a single parent, was on the phone while spending time with me or doing a million other things, cooking, cleaning while spending time with me. And of course, these are things that we kind of can't get around. But if we're intentional about them and we realize when we're doing it and we decide, okay, maybe not this time, maybe this time I'm going to just do this one thing and focus on this one thing. And that might be cooking with my daughter or cooking with my husband, not cooking, doing stuff for work, watching TV, trying to clean the kitchen, doing all these things that sort of eliminate our ability to really be intentional on one task. Multitasking is kind of something that I think so many of us do so often that we rob ourselves of the beauty of being intentional, of being present as we've been talking about, and finding purpose in everyday task, right? So I challenge you guys to do that. Help build yourself and build your presence with others by being intentional and being present and finding purpose in the way you engage with them, right? What else happens? It allows you to be realistic, right? So if we're intentional about how many things we can do on our list, right? Instead of putting 20 things, we realize we never finished the 20. Maybe we need to do 15 or maybe 10. We're realistic with ourselves about what our day means for us. And that a part of that is self-care, right? So if you put 20 things on that list, you're not going to finish till 9 p.m. at night. That means you need to shorten that list in honor of yourself, because the purpose there is, one, yes, handling what you need to do, but two, also being kind to yourself and knowing, okay, maybe 20 things is a little bit too much, right? And then the last thing that this does for us that is so important, especially right now with COVID, is it allows us to feel a sense of control, which we all need right now. There are so many things going on that are out of our controls with this COVID stuff and all this virtual school and virtual working and, just social distancing. There's a lot of stuff we cannot really control right now. But what we can control is doing things with purpose, on purpose, right? So everything we do has a purpose, but do we acknowledge the purpose every time we do that thing? That's what you have to ask yourself. Making your bed in the morning has a purpose, but as you're making your bed in the morning, are you thinking about what you're going to cook in a few hours? When you're cooking, are you thinking about the thing for work that you forgot to do? When you're spending time with your spouse, are you thinking about work? Think about the things that are purposeful to you in your life, and when you're doing them, challenge yourself to remember and hold that purpose. Be intentional of that purpose by only focusing on that thing. And you will find that, one, not only are you practicing mindfulness, but two, you will feel all those other benefits that I mentioned. So you're going to feel present with yourself. You're going to feel present with others, and in turn have better relationships with yourself and with others. You're going to force yourself to create better habits. You're going to allow yourself to be realistic, which creates that compassion that Shola and I have been talking about. And you're going to give yourself a sense of control over things that you often don't usually feel like you have control over. And that's really important too. So I hope that this was what you needed today, because honestly, talking to you about it was what I needed today. So I'm so glad that you guys stayed in and tuned in with me today. I'm going to leave you guys with the homework of challenging yourself to do this, to have purpose on purpose, to do things of purpose on purpose, to make each single day a day of purpose on purpose by starting that list, that being intentional when you're checking off that list, and being kind to yourself if you don't check everything off of that list. So that is the homework for today. I really hope that this is in alignment with what you needed today. Thank you to everyone who has been sending us topics, questions, commentary. You really are letting us know that this is something that you're benefiting from, and that's the whole reason for this. So we will see you guys soon. Shola and I will be back together, same time, same place, next Wednesday. Bye, guys.